Gabriel Erb,
And this is Daniel Gellhard.
and we're doing a Lancer podcast on the NFL today. We're going to be talking about two things: Baker Mayfield and Deshaun Watson. Baker Mayfield is a quarterback in the NFL. He was a great college athlete and a football player with high expectations coming into the NFL. He did all right on the Browns, who were a very poor team. He brought them to the playoffs. He had a playoff win on their team, and that next year he didn't do so good. He was injured and was ended up traded to the Panthers, which I think was a bad of the Browns since they never really gave him a fair shot. He didn't do that great on the Panthers this year. He played a couple of games and he was cut by them really after only starting a couple games, where he was picked up by the Rams. Uh, but the Rams QB Matt Stafford is injured right now, and they needed a QB, so they picked him up. They put their trust in him, and he just won a game for them. You know, he came on their team 2 days ago, and then won a game 2 days later. Now, Deshaun Watson, he's an interesting player. He was drafted in 2017 by the Texans, and he was really like a great prospect. And he played a couple of great years for the Texans until he got suspended due to sexual assault allegations. I believe he was like a top 5 quarterback in his prime. He was a really good quarterback, but he hasn't played in 2 years. He was traded from the Texans to the Browns after he got suspended. He hasn't played in 2 years. He just started 2 games, and they were iffy for him. They weren't great.
The Browns have great hopes for him, as his contract is a 5-year, $230 million deal, which makes him in the top 10 paid for quarterbacks. Even though he hasn't played in so long, he is getting paid a lot. So, Gabe, how do you think the Browns will play now that Deshaun Watson's back?
So I don't really know. He's played 2 games for them already, one against the Texans and one against the Cincinnati Bengals. And he looked like an average quarterback when really he's supposed to be, top of the league. But also you got to take into account he hasn't played in 2 years. Obviously, you're going to be a little rusty. He's in a new system, which he hasn't played a lot for. So I think it's really just a matter of getting it under his belt. He just needs a couple games to get back to where he was. That's what I think.
Yeah, I mean the Texans are not a great team.
They really fell apart without him once he got suspended.
Yeah.
It was really crazy.
And
they went from a playoff team to winning one game a year like they have right now.
And the Bengals, they don't have one of the best. They have an alright defense, but it's not the best. So two teams that he could work against, he didn't work against. He used to be insanely athletic, could throw the ball, could do all of these. He used to be a highlight reel. And right now, he's just looking like less than an average quarterback. He's looking like a mediocre quarterback, if that.
Right, but again, he hasn't played in 2 years. If you didn't play football in 2 years, how do you think you would do?
I'd probably do terrible. Probably wouldn't. Kind of forget how to play the game. A lot of basic things I just completely forget. So, do you think the Browns are going to positively be affected by giving Deshaun Watson this much amount of money?
Personally, I don't know. We have to wait and see how it plays out, because we have to see how it goes next year. This year's kind of just a warm-up for him. It's a pretty tough division with the Bengals and the Ravens, and even the Steelers that aren't that great this year. They always somehow manage to bounce back because of Mike Tomlin.
What pieces do you think they need to get next year to be successful? Like, who do you think? What do you think they need to draft to be successful?
So I think they already have a lot of good pieces. They have a good defense led by Myles Garrett. They have the best running back in the league, or one of, Nick Chubb. They have a good O-line, clearly, because you can't be a good back without a good O-line. They have a pretty good receiving core led by Amari Cooper. I think it just needs to be Deshaun Watson. He just needs to be that key piece that puts it all together. They need a quarterback that can do that. Baker Mayfield, who was on the Browns before, he partially did that. He got them almost there. He couldn't quite do it, and that's what they're looking for in Deshaun Watson.
I think their Miles Garrett is a good piece. I think if they next year would draft anybody, it'd probably be some interior D line. Nadoku has been doing good, tight end.
Njoku, David, yeah.
And so I think what really needs to happen is interior D line.
But they need a wide receiver too.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think Amari Cooper is he's top. He's probably like top 15, but like that you can't have top 15 as your number one wide receiver if you're gonna go to the playoffs.
Right. All right. So Baker Mayfield, Daniel, how'd you feel about his game on Thursday?
I thought he looked amazing. He looked like he was the Heisman winner that he was supposed to be coming out of college. He brought back his team from a deficit that it looked like with 6 minutes left in the game, there was no way the Rams were coming back. And you look at the record, it doesn't seem like they're a team that would come back in that situation. So I think Baker Mayfield looked good.
Yeah. Well, he really stepped in for Matthew Stafford with that neck injury. Matthew Stafford was the Rams quarterback before. He won the Super Bowl last year, but he's battled a lot of injuries this year, and most recently it's been a neck injury, and it requires surgery. So he's going to decide if he wants to get surgery or retire. Personally, I think he's going to retire, and I think that if Baker Mayfield can put together some good last couple games for this team, I think he's going to be their starting quarterback next year. Yeah, Baker Mayfield, he's a real leader out there. Like, you can tell. He has a lot of heart. He really, he energizes the team. Like, the Rams are playing with basically the practice squad, right? Like, all their Cooper Kupp's injured. Is Allen Robinson? Their wide receivers too injured. Their tight ends injured. He's thrown to a bunch of, backups out there, and he looked great. He won them a game.
He's still getting done. I mean, I think he brings great energy. I think he will bring great energy to this team. Even though they have a lot of good players, he could just enhance their team to be even greater.
Yeah, I think him and Cooper Kupp, if Baker Mayfield starts next year, they're going to be a deadly duo, man. That's going to be crazy. Cooper Kupp is the Rams wide receiver one who's injured this year, but he won the Triple Crown last year,
and he was in the top 5 for MVP.
He should have won MVP last year.
Yeah. I really think he's different from Deshaun Watson. I think Deshaun Watson right now is more focused on just trying to get back in the game, because unlike Baker Mayfield, he's committed to having a lot of money and is secured right now. He doesn't have to worry about that. But for Baker Mayfield, it was make or break for that game. I think Deshaun Watson's mentality is way different right now, and really the last couple games he's really been just trying to figure out how to play football again, which is it's terrible. I mean, but what are you gonna do? You paid the man how much money? What are you gonna do?
Yeah, Baker Mayfield has a lot on the line, and Deshaun Watson doesn't. And I think that's the big difference here. Also, Baker Mayfield looks like a leader, where Deshaun Watson doesn't. He just looks like he's out there throwing the ball. Who do you think is going to be a better quarterback next year if Baker Mayfield starts? Deshaun Watson or Baker Mayfield?
I think Baker Mayfield's going to be a way better quarterback. I think with the Browns, he did good. He made the playoffs. He took a Browns team that wasn't good. I mean, I don't think Myles Garrett was there until I think his last season, and I really think he's going to help the team a lot. I mean, I don't think the Panthers gave him a shot and he wasn't good, but I feel like it really wasn't a good fit for him. feel like maybe the Rams might be a better fit. He'll be in LA a lot. He'll have a better pieces to work with than the Panthers. If you think about it, the Panthers were a terrible team. Deshaun, and the reason why I think he's going to be better than Deshaun Watson is that Deshaun Watson, I mean, he's just not. Played football, and I think.
You think he's lost it?
I think he's lost it. I think over the years, or I think it's the mentality as well is really different. I think Deshaun Watson's mentality is not as great as Baker Mayfield's.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Even when he was playing for the Browns, Baker would come back from close games and he would fight for his team. Even though the Browns weren't especially good, he would still put forth his team and actually make close games.
Yeah, I think both guys have shown that they have a lot of talent, like a lot of talent. Deshaun Watson was a top 5 quarterback 3 or 4 years ago, and Baker Mayfield was one of the best college quarterbacks that, we've ever seen.
Mm.
So I think they both have a lot of talent. They both have a lot of potential. Deshaun Watson's shown more of that potential in the NFL a couple years ago, but does he still have it? We really don't know. We really have to wait till next year to find out. And same with Baker Mayfield, honestly. If he can, again, do good next year, I think he's going to secure a spot as a starter for at least a couple more years in the NFL.
So that wraps up our discussion on the NFL. More directly, these two quarterbacks. I think these two quarterbacks could be top 10 in the league next year. They really work. Deshaun Watson trying to get back to his former self, and Baker Mayfield trying to show everyone that he deserved to get be a number one draft pick in 2018, and to go on and help the Rams become a Super Bowl contender once again.
This has been
the Dan and Gabe podcast
on Lancer Media.